Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Dynamite Shirt Printing, Kyle Metz. What a guy. He came on as a sponsor, and my primary use for him is drop shipping. So what that means is that I don't got to buy inventory. I don't got to buy a bunch of t-shirts. Kyle handles it all. So it's ordered online, and then he prints it and ships it, and he handles everything. And it works out for both parties. If you're looking for something else like general screen printing, he handles that. He does embroidery. He does direct to garment, DTG, which means you can do one-offs, and there's no minimum on that. Kyle's been able to help a lot of businesses that I've been funneling to him just to get going and to, start up. I mean, you don't want to order 100 t-shirts when you're just coming out the gate. And Kyle can handle small orders, large orders. He can handle everything you need. That's Dynamite Shirt Printing, and it's dynamiteshirtprinting.com. Go check it out. My favorite skate shop in the Valley, 5anddimeeaston.com. You can shop online or in store. Their address is 140 Northampton Street, Easton, PA. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sundays, 11 to 5. They carry clothing, shoes, boards, accessories, and more. You can get complete decks down there. They got grip. They got some local clothing down there as well. I know a couple guys that came on the show that they're now selling stuff in store, and they're exclusive to Fucked. They are doing so much for the independent skate community. They're doing so much for the DIY. They're doing a lot in the area with skateboarding, and I couldn't be prouder to have them as a sponsor. Their story is incredible, from starting it when they were 18 and then coming back later in life to opening up what the store is that they wanted. And the two guys down there are just incredible. I can't say enough good things about them. I love that they're a sponsor, and they really help out in the community. And if you skate or want to support them, please go check them out locally. It is 140 Northampton Street, Easton, PA. Online, it is 5anddimeeaston.com. Please go check them out. All Valley Rooter, Jared LaBarba, friend of the show, childhood friend, Never Again Studios official plumber. 24-hour emergency services. 610-762-1656. That's 610-762-1656. They charge by the job, not by the hour, and they are 100% fully insured. They have free estimates. They also do installation and repair. They have a list of things. I can't go over them all on here, but you can find them at allvalleyrouter.net. All of Jared's services are on there. It's a beautiful website. You can contact him through that website. You can find out how to do, emergency services. Where should I call? Who should I contact? You can get all that there at allvalleyrouter.net. Free estimates, fully insured. Jared LaBarba. Check him out. It's more like a casual hang, but Never Again Radio episode, I have no fucking clue. Welcome to Never Again Radio, man. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you,
I'm
man?
Good. I always kind of get into how I met people. I met you through Liz and Mindleaf, and I remember talking to you at Music Fest, and you're like, you want a podcast? I was De Niro's photographer, and I was like, just the way you talk to me, I was like, yeah, I would love to talk to you for an hour. You bring such an awesome energy, and you're a very unique person, and I'm excited to dive into all this. You are mixed into photography, and you're doing it at a very high level. I don't even know what I would call what you're doing, because I don't know the term for it, but where did your journey in photography or film or anything even start? Was it as a child, or like when did you first pick up a camera?
Well, basically, my mother gave me a choice out of high school, either go to college or work. So I had a camera. I liked my camera. I took pictures of friends and crap like that. So I basically said, all right, I'll go to college. So I took up photography at the local, college. And then finally, I moved out to L.A., came back.
How long did you do the photography at college?
Oh, I got a degree.
How long was that?
4 years.
That's not bad.
It was a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Basically, I got an associate's from the first college, and then I went off to Jersey City State College.
Yeah.
And I got my degree as well. And at that point, I was living in Hoboken in Jersey City. And for fun, I would just go over and shoot Broadway.
Was it projects during college that you had to do this?
No, the projects were totally off of any of this. And I've said this
You're
before.
boring.
Throughout college, I think one of our projects, and there was a show once, they did an A&E special on me called Shooting the Stars, New York Paparazzi, and I was one of 3 photographers in it. And in it, I had stated that basically the teachers would say, go shoot shrubs and get your, clouds and all kinds of things. And that was okay and all. But when I would go out and go to a Broadway show and shoot people leaving, I could sell those pictures or shoot John Kennedy Jr., throwing out his garbage back then in the mid-'80s.
How did you know to even go do that stuff?
Because I started to get into the business. Well, first of all, I started to shoot concerts. Music is my big first love of all. I don't play and I don't sing, but I love music.
So you were just bringing your camera to
Well,
concerts?
right. I would bring my camera to concerts back then.
Was it allowed back then?
To an extent. It was a lot more accepted then than it is now, for sure.
Yeah.
And I've seen it change throughout the business. But I started pretty much at a club called Maxwell's in Hoboken. And in Hoboken, in Maxwell's, they would have, bands like the Dickies and the Dead Boys and the Damned and smaller bands, and they would play, and I would go shoot them. And I would sometimes get a pass from the college radio station or something that I was shooting them. And then I figured out that it's a good way to get into concerts for free.
Yeah.
So I was working at a club in Manhattan at the time, and a gentleman in like 1987 came into the club, and he had a U2 photo pass on. And I was working the door, and we exchanged numbers, and the next day he called me, and he said, do you want to go, I could use a photographer to go out with me.
That's so crazy.
And basically I went out, and I shot The Grateful Dead with Bob Dylan.
Did he tell you what you were doing?
Who,
Like, was he like, hey, or was he like, hey, just come out?
No, he said, come out. We're going to go do this event. Or I'm going to go I'm interviewing this guy. So I go to this event. This is, I think, one of my first shoots, and it was with Carlos Santana. So
did you shit your pants when you finally were that close? And
honestly, that's the whole thing. I don't get it. I don't get the stardom thing.
yeah, so I think that's I don't know.
Well,
Do you think it's
put me in rooms with people that I shouldn't be in rooms with?
Yeah.
But I don't care.
Yeah, but I think that's and the more we get into this, and the more we are doing it, is I feel like it's what you were supposed to do. You know what I mean? If it feels that natural to be doing it, and you have a love for taking the photography, and then you're mixing your music in with it, and it just feels right.
It was a really good time, and it's good for me. It was a good thing, a good job for a person like me. I have never had a 9-to-5.
Yeah,
I've never had something like that. I've always worked either in that industry or other industries that don't partake having to punch clock.
Did you do it when you were younger? Did you ever have to punch a clock or anything? Or
maybe a couple jobs throughout high school, more or less.
But you just knew you didn't like it.
No, I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
And again, I definitely have some ADHD in me, or if not a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm always going. I'm definitely atypical. I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
And I think that helped out. And this business changed drastically over the 37, 38 years I've been in it, for almost 40, to the point of, for technology purposes, celebrity purposes, music-wise. We used to, I'll tell you a story. One of the first shows, I think it was 1990, I photographed Pearl Jam at Limelight in New York. And we were only supposed to be in for 3 songs. But a week prior to this show, 10 broke. They were the biggest thing. The place was wall-to-wall mob.
That's so crazy that you got to see Pearl Jam when 10 broke.
I photographed. I have pictures somewhere in this file here of that. And they couldn't get to us, so we actually stayed through the whole set. I'll be honest with you, after that show, that was the only time we got to shoot Pearl Jam from the center, from the front, was the first tour of 10. After that, we were sent to shoot them on the sides of wherever they were playing, and we had to be at distance.
Why did they change restrictions on stuff?
Because they got popular.
Oh, so do you think it's the bands?
Oh, it's the band's decision, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Clapton's another one who refused to have photographers in his pit. You have to be far. because he's not a fan of the press, and I don't believe, and obviously why should he be after, when the New York Post put a picture of his splattered son on the cover of the Post many years ago.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I have to say, the Post made me. I worked for the Post for 27 years, 28 years, doing their celebrity beat.
So let's rewind it, because you have so much to go through. So you start working with this guy, and you go do Carlos Santana.
Yes, and then from there, his name was Jesse Nash. Still is. He's still out there, Jesse. If you see this, hello. And he had a column in a magazine called Showbiz Weekly, and he also had one in the Tower Records. Used to have a book, a pamphlet that they would send out. So from him, I photographed numerous bands. He was sort of my beginning of everything.
Yeah.
And then I started to get into the business and meet more people. And that's how I started to go in and meet more paparazzis. Back in that point, I think there was a handful of concert photographers, a handful of paparazzis, and a handful of premiere photographers who would do premieres and stuff like that.
Now it's starting to make sense how you dabbled in everything.
Right. So basically you would do, it's making a living. It's art. Okay. I didn't start making money for until 7 years after I started, 8 years.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I've had experience. It's just a nonstop, constant fun.
Yeah.
It's all it's been. But it's a lot of work too.
Yeah.
And it's not good on a family. But going back to how it all started, so from there, and Jesse, the next shoot we went on was Roy Orbison.
Oh my God.
So I'm in a hotel room with Roy Orbison. So you do
Carlos Santana, and then you do Roy Orbison's your next one.
Yes, and in between I shoot little bands like the Dead Kennedys, the Circle Jerks, Black Flag, Henry Rollins, Suicidal.
Yeah,
but don't forget.
Crazy.
But don't forget, this is mid-'80s.
Yeah.
So they were little bands.
Yeah.
Then, I remember working for Jesse. He got me a pass to shoot the Grateful Dead at the Garden in 1987 when they would do their September tours. And it went on from there. Shot Roger Waters. Shot millions and millions of concerts. Not millions, but hundreds of concerts for him. Did a lot of start on my own. I started to get out, and I started working for a company called Retina, who's no longer in existence, like a lot of photo agencies that went out of business. There's really two games in town. One's Getty, one's Shutterstock.
So when you said you're in Roy Orbison's hotel room, are they also hiring you to get like backstage stuff and like extra stuff, or are you just... How do you end up in his hotel room?
Okay, so back in these jobs specifically, Jesse Nash was doing an interview for Pulse Magazine or Showbiz Weekly, or this, that, and the other thing. And he would get an assignment to do that, and I would do some pictures of them in their setting.
So he'd be doing the interview, and then he was bringing you in to do
the photos, and I'd resell the photos back then because there was a high market for resale. Back then, you could make a pretty damn nice bit of money.
Yeah, everybody didn't have a camera in their pocket.
Yeah, and the checks, honestly, back then, print was big. So, the people, if they ran it in the paper, back then they were paying $250, $400, $500. If it ran on a cover, it was $1,000, $5,000. Yeah. If it was an exclusive, you can get more money. The resale checks back in the 80s and 90s used to be, in the 10, 20, 30 grand a month deal. Now they're about $1,500 to $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
It's just because of this. It's because of this.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a phone, like you said. So going from there, that's how we got into that. And then when I started working for these agencies, they would Retina, LGI, or London Features. They would take the work and sell it, and I'd get passes. I remember I wanted to see, it was Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
That was the lineup for the show. And I would shoot these concerts and then move on and meet more people and more people. And then one day I was approached, and I guess it was 92, 93, by a gentleman named Albert Ferreira, and he worked for another company that I will not name. And I started working for them, and he had an account with the New York Post, this other company, and contracts and deals with all the major studios to do their premieres, to do all the post events, to do red carpets, to do, if they were doing something, to promote the film, I would be there. So I started with him, and that was a life changer. That changed everything.
So at this point now, you're switching from music to doing premieres?
Well, I did a little bit of music, but more now. I was doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But this specific job, there was concerts involved. There was musicians when it had to be. But for the most part, I would get like 3 or 4 or 5 assignments a day, and I would take my Harley and I'd ride through New York, and
that's so awesome.
I would boom around and I would get all these things, and I'd hit 5 to 10 events a day.
Man, what a fun way for work, man. Even just you talking about that and hearing how you have your tasks, but you have a freedom to get it done.
Well, right. It was basically, I could say, and this is a funny statement, I could have breakfast shooting Dolly Parton, and I have the pictures, and then I'd be at a lunch at Le Cirque with Pavarotti. Then we'd be at Frank Sinatra's 80th birthday party at Waldorf Astoria at 9 o'clock at night.
That's a wild way to live. That's so cool.
And we'd be all over, and we'd be running and running and running and running. It was a great job for a person, like I said, like me, who just wants to just go and go and go.
Yeah.
So
on to the next thing.
Correct.
Distractions, fun. You're being creative.
Right. Plus, I honestly, and this is what somebody told me years ago. God rest his soul. Gene Shaw, he just died about a week ago. He said, we get to do things in this job every single day that one person would like to do once in their life.
Yeah.
And we do it every day. So now we're at the point, early 90s, the doors have opened up. The New York Post is a very, very important piece of, material.
Have you got into the paparazzi at this point before the Post?
Oh, I was always involved.
I want to go back to that for a second. What was that like getting into that? Because that's a different style of stuff.
Paparazzi? Yeah, we would do different things, though, then. Like, we would stand in front of the courthouse and wait for John Gotti to walk out. All right? Or we would be, shooting Woody Allen, and these people were real Hollywood. They would know. I didn't get as hardcore paparazzi as some other guys, that I won't say who they are, but they did. Basically, that they would stake people out for days. That was not my
like the crazy
situation.
stuff you see.
I'd rather shoot events.
Yeah.
So I'd go to 4 or 5 events, but back then, like I said, the resale was a lot better. You go out and make $5,000-$10,000 a month back then. Now, unless not on resale. So then the hired gigs came in through this time with this other company. Built quite a good reputation, good name. I have the Post to thank for that, plus my own self. We worked for every major studio at one point. We had every one. Disney, DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, Sony, Fine Line, New Line. I had them all. We fast forward up until trade centers. Basically, I have photos of them coming down. I got the call the night before. It was a whole nother story and a whole nother thing, but I had dropped somebody off. We looked, they were all lit up that night. Went to bed, got up to a phone call. You better get up. Look on the news. There it is, the plane. I was in Jersey City at the time. I lived there. So we had a house here, and I had an apartment there.
Yeah.
And basically I ran down to Liberty State Park, took pictures, and police told me to leave. I have some really, exceptional pictures of them on fire. And then across, I went down to where the Palmolive clock is, and the steel workers let me stand up in their area, and I was photographing it, and it came down in front of me, and I have it imploding.
Oh, wow. It's crazy.
So basically, the gentleman who owned the company that I was working for and my business partner, who was my business partner now, Marion Curtis, he basically he wanted to take the copyright to those photos. And I said no. And my business partner said, no, those are history. You're not having them. And we got in a problem, and basically we left him. And in doing so, we took a lot of the client base, and they wanted to come with us. It wasn't like we took it. They came to us.
So when you say he wanted the copyright, he wanted to make money off of the photos?
Yes.
And then you guys were more like...
No, he wanted to own them.
Yeah.
And the copyright. That's basically copyright means that he would have the pictures forever under his name, and any resale from that day till whenever stop buying it, it's his.
Yeah.
So it's not his image.
Yeah.
So
you guys walked?
Huh?
You walked at that point from...
We walked from this company. Well, basically we walked, and then he had got an injunction because we had a non-compete, and we were out of work for a while. And a lot of people in the business at that time, there's personal connections and personal, relationships with all these people. And they really didn't like that he did that. So as soon as this injunction was done, they all came back. I started Star Picks with my business partner, Marion, and we've been going since 2001.
Did you, now through Star Picks, did you work when you said about the Post?
We continue to work with the Post.
So you got into, what did you do when you got into the Post?
Same thing I've always done.
So they hired you for...
Well, it's sort of a way that he would give you a retainer, and basically, we would give them... Back then, again, it's a totally different time because you have the Daily News and the New York Post, two competing papers. And at that point, they were important. So we had very good access to things. And one of the deals was we would give it to the Post and use the Post name to get into events and keep it away from the Daily News.
Yeah.
So basically, we were always affiliated with the Post. Another gentleman, another great photographer, Richard Corkery, was a Daily News photographer. And at some points in New York, we would, at one point in the 90s, me and Corkery could go into anywhere physically possible if there was an event. And if we were together, it was the Post and the News, and they wouldn't let us in or something, they would, we'd say, okay, we're going to leave. And the publicists would chase us to come to get it because they knew they would lose the News and the Post. But we had carte blanche anywhere, any restaurant, anywhere we wanted to go in New York.
Yeah.
And it was a blast.
Yeah,
especially
in
being
New
young.
York, dude.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What was that
cool.
like?
It was overwhelming. It was great. It was fun. I mean, again, totally different time.
Yeah.
Things were different. I was young, and it was fun. It's a great time. And, again, the people you get to see and things like that are just, you can't, I could pull this, you don't get this. Just standing there.
Yeah. That's wild. You were showing me some of the pictures.
Yeah. I mean, there's
crazy
tons.
what you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I've worked for people, that are the Bowie, David Bowie, not the Bowie, David Bowie, the Rolling Stones, Robert De Niro. I've been working for his personally for a long time. Eric Clapton, again, still the major studios, but things have changed again. The business is different. It was a blast. How couldn't it be? Like I said, we'd get up in the morning and be with Pavarotti and, run event after event after event. And then at that point, even if there was film shoots or stuff, that's paparazzi and what people consider it now, more so than it used to be. The hardcore paparazzis now, these guys hang out in front of hotels.
Yeah.
And they hang out at, at the film sets. They're considered paparazzi, but they're really not because they're just, taking photos of people as they come out of a building. So they're not staking people out and they're not really infringing upon their lives. So, I sort of have an issue that they're, called paparazzis. I mean, some things, yes, they get bothersome. I think there was something the other day with Meghan Markle and, what's his name? The Prince Edward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they chased him down. I don't know. Ask away.
So when you got to, when you guys started the Star project with
Star Picks,
when you guys did Star Picks, and the clients started coming over, and then now you're kind of building this new business. Where did you guys take that business? Because leaving after 9/11 and times are changing, and you take Star Picks now. What was the goal with Star Picks?
Star Picks was to continue to do the same job,
just under a different house,
a different name, where myself and my business partner would profit from it instead of having somebody in the middle make more money than he would pay us to sit in his house, which he had upstate, New York he would live 3 hours out and never come down, and we would do all the work and never get, the pay for it. So basically it worked out okay. I mean, things got, we're still doing it. It's all in basically keeping people happy, content, doing a good job, keeping low profile, professionalism. And again, it's totally changed now because it's all digital. Everything's digital. Going again, we used to shoot 2 cameras, one print, black and white, Tri-X, one chrome, because the chrome would go to the tabloids and the magazines, and the print film would go to the Post and the Associated Press. So basically now what we do at StarPix is the same basic model. As far as we take the photos, we're hired by the studios or whomever hires us. They get to keep the photos, and we also service out the photos to news outlets.
Yeah. So because it's making a lot of sense now as to because before, even when Sal went to the thing with De Niro and how you're kind of getting in touch with these, it's because you've been in the business for so long. So your guys' reputation and what you've been doing is how you got connected to working for these studios that are hiring you, because you guys have your reputation from doing what you did earlier. So when you start bringing in these bigger clients and working with the different studios that you're still doing today, that's not even it's got to be so hard to gauge what moves your needle, because the first thing you did was Carlos Santana and Pearl Jam. And you know what I mean? No wonder you're not starstruck, because you immediately were thrown into that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Because you always just kind of nonchalantly are like, oh, yeah, we did this, or I'm doing that. And then it's just like, all right, well, how are you never affected by that? But if you've always been around it since the beginning, and your entire career has been working with full-on stardom and high-level celebrities, eventually it's just going to be work, and it's going to be normal people, and it's cool, and it's, it probably doesn't feel real in times. But for now, where it's at now, it's because, when I hear you say this stuff, I'm like, holy shit. But then if that's what you're doing every day, it's got to level out somewhere as to where it doesn't feel
interesting. Well,
yeah, not interesting, but
always interesting.
Not like being starstruck, you said.
Well, I'll tell you how I keep that curb. Basically, I learned a long time ago when I had worked for Bowie, and I'm a huge David Bowie fan. Huge. After I met him, and I got his attitude, I was just totally changed by that. I still listen to him and love his music, but now...
They say never meet your heroes.
Never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
A great story is, numerous people who I've met, and I try not to, it just doesn't, but it sort of doesn't work either, because some of the people I have met
are awesome.
Yeah.
I heard
Robert De Niro is an awesome man.
Yeah, how'd you get hooked up with De Niro? Was that the same thing as where people just know your guys' work?
No, that's a whole nother story at another time. And I just got called in on the jobs with him, and we just
hit it off
to each other, and I've been with them since, just doing personal stuff, personal photos and family photos and things like that. So
how it works, just because I'm interested, is when somebody like that, you hit it off, and then now they're just like, all right, so we have a photographer. So then he likes the way you obviously take pictures. So then he brings you in to do personal stuff. But then does he hire you because he likes the way that you shoot him, and then you're brought into his work or his events because he likes your style? Or how does that work with somebody on that level?
He's totally different than any of the other ones, but it's all about trust with him. That's it. Because if he does not want something, none of his photos that I take, you'll see almost none of them ever, unless I'm working for a studio or an outside. It's usually
that's being paid to take pictures. Yeah,
I will not. I just it's an agreement that it's a trust factor that nobody. They're his photos and they're for him, and it's very interesting because he is such an interesting and intelligent man that I asked him one day what he does with the photos, and he had said Well, sometimes I'll take them out 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and I'll relive the moment. And
Yeah.
I thought that was so poignant.
Yeah.
Because that's what photography is about.
Yeah.
It's about reliving the time. So anyway, that's basically it without going into a lot of
You don't got to.
extra stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've just hit it off and been good, and I've like watched all his children grow up, and
That's crazy.
you know, it's pretty good. I mean, I could. Where's the good ones here? Somewhere, but there is something here that since you mentioned him. Let's see, what can I pull out here? Oh, there's one.
That's crazy. What was that from?
That was from a Godfather Tribeca screening film.
Yeah.
That they had, and it was Private Party.
So that's like kind of like similar. Like you'll take those photos, and then that's just like so then you just give him photos like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's seen those. Those actually, I might have been able to release because it was part of Tribeca. I mean, it's sort of a kind of a deal, you know, like this. You don't release this.
Yeah. That's wild.
You know that is.
The other guy I know, that one I don't.
This one?
Yeah.
That's Chuck Zito and that's Sonny Barger, president.
Okay. I knew Chuck.
I mean, it's just, you know, like I said, it's about being professional.
So then do you get hired by Zito to come out to shoot that? Or like what was that
would have
all
been,
about?
That was just me on myself. That was me going to shoot Sonny Barger.
Yeah.
Before, this goes back so long that it gets to a point in the business also that, you know, once you're one of these kind of photographers, celebrity photographer, we sort of have a kill list. It's sort of like, okay, I've shot, you know, Leave It to Beaver's mom. I've shot, you know, Barbara Billingsley.
Yeah.
I've shot, you know, I Dream of Jeannie, Barbara Eden. I've shot, you know, Sonny Barger. I've shot, you know, President Carter. So, you know, Jimmy Page. So you get them off your list.
Yeah.
So my whole deal was to try to shoot as much as possible. Going back, this was one of my first published works on a biker magazine because I used to do a lot of runs with bikers.
Yeah.
That's my wife back then. That's so funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So is it some stuff that you just go to and take pictures and then you try and sell them to them? Or
No, that's where it used to be.
Yeah.
See, pre 9/11 and pre, you know, the digital age, there was a lot of money to be made in resale. That's why I would go and shoot something like that.
And then you contact them and be like, hey.
No. I shoot it for the press.
Ah, all right. Yeah.
And then it goes online. So I'm not really worried about I would shoot it for press purpose and a resale. They don't care. They're happy
now, is
that
the press
I'm there.
sending you there, or is it your idea to go?
Most of it I would pick and choose myself.
Yeah. So do they give you a list, or do you approach them and be like, hey, I want to go shoot this biker thing?
Not anymore. No, I mean, that stuff I would find.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Is like there's stuff that you kind of pitch to them.
So back in the day, it used to work like this. I'd call the paper in the morning, see what they had going on. We would get tip sheets every night, or they would send us tip sheets, through the internet. We would basically get them on email. Or it has to be before that. We would just get calls back then. We get teed off of where people would come and go. As things progressed in technology, we get tip sheets every day of where events were being held. If it was going to be a Broadway opening, or even if, let's just say, George Clooney was going to go see a Broadway show, we'd get the tip that he was going to be there. So we'd get up in the morning, we'd look for events, we'd look for things to do. That's when I joined that first company. They would tell me what to do, and I wouldn't have to go do that. They would go, all right, I want you to be on 47th and Park. I want you to be at 12:30, you'll be down at, the World Trade Center for something. And then at 4 o'clock, you'll be over on, the West Side. And that's how that would work. And, like again, with the concerts, if I didn't really, I would go for the resale, like to shoot Justin Bieber or Miley Cyrus or stuff like that. But when it came down to shooting Page and Plant or the Stones or something, if we weren't contracted by them to shoot to go shoot whatever concert it was, so I get access to shoot it.
Yeah.
Plus, I get to see a few songs.
Yeah.
And it was always good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where's everything at now as far as like we kind of like went through the whole story of kind of you coming up and then going through the different versions of it, and then now where you're at like Star Picks and you're doing that. Like, where's everything kind of caught up to speed now? Like, what have you been doing lately with it?
Well, basically, the whole industry has changed. And
Oh yeah, let's get to that a little bit. So when did you start noticing the change, and when did you have to
2015.
You had to start actually changing your camera equipment to digital?
Well, that we changed in 2001. We started changing from film to digital.
Yeah.
So we started, and everything was always pricey back then. But we got it, and we got our stuff, and we started dealing with it. Again, I think back then it was a little more simpler, but it was more time consuming. As of now, it's still time consuming, but it's not that difficult. It's just sitting behind a computer editing. As far as the equipment goes, the total, I'd say that's when we went digital. As far as the what was the second part of that question?
When you started noticing the change?
2015 was when we really noticed the dip starting in the resale checks. And what had happened was the digital age came. You had two companies. One was Getty, one was Shutterstock. We're affiliated with Shutterstock Rex that syndicates our photos. A lot of people do it through Getty. Getty has their own thing going on. So between the two of them and everything else, and the phones and technology, the world has changed. And now the price of photos went down because there's also no print. Everybody wants everything right away on their phone. So the quality doesn't matter. So here we are now. So we started seeing it go down. And about 2017, I saw the signs of the THC business coming to the East Coast. That's when I started the Mindleaf company.
Yeah.
So I continued doing photography, and then COVID hit. And it wiped us out because entertainment died. A lot of people don't understand what happened to a lot of photographers, people in film, people all around, people who have company jobs. We were all out of work.
Yeah.
For 18 months.
I have a lot of friends who freelance, and they do videography, and they get hired to do commercials and go to New York and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see how that, because I mean, it affected so much different stuff. But then when they were like, just getting back to work and like seeing them kind of like be down and out for that long. And then, some of them I think didn't pick up that job again. And it left, like you said, a lot of people that not a lot of people thought about them, because we weren't making movies and there wasn't live events and all that stuff. And
a lot of people,
yeah.
Yes, you're talking about security guys.
Yeah.
You're talking about people who work in the stadiums, in the venues,
Building
the bartenders.
the stadiums, yeah.
I mean, everything all around, beer vendors. I mean, all these people were out of work. They had no work. And us as photographers, production companies across the board, nobody had work for a long time. And then there was, the whole world has changed as well. So it's become a different world all the way around. So now, through COVID comes and shuts down movie theaters. Everybody starts to stream. The streaming companies have now taken over where the big studios were.
Yeah.
Okay. So we still do premieres, but they're not as big. They're smaller because there's a lot more coming, more every week. Because,
how you were saying before we started about how like these companies put out 5-6 movies a month.
Correct. And they do because they have to, because it's part of the streaming service.
And the way people watch everything now with binging, and then during the pandemic when that's all people were doing was streaming, now the way people consume everything is totally different. Like they can drop a movie or a long series all at once, and then you don't have to like wait for, like it's so weird the way everything is, because when you look back as to like when I grew up, it was like you watched, an episode dropped a week and you would tune in each week. And it was like, I remember Married with Children. The news, and
every
my
Sunday.
dad would Sundays was big for TV.
Right.
And we'd watch it as like a family, or even HBO when like the movies would come out because you were paying for that service back then.
And then you'd have to wait till that
like
month.
Saturday, or I remember when like Terminator came out and like my whole family watched it, and like there would be movies and you didn't know if the movie was going to suck or not because there wasn't 10 trailers that would jam down your throat.
Right.
It was a way different time. And now the way everything is now is where everyone wants it now. Give it to me now. I'm going to binge this. I've already watched series in 2 days. Like, just banged it out and been like, I just watched 8 hours of television in 2 days. Like, it's wild what you can do.
It is true. It is true because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
When I have the time. We're doing it right now with a show called Banshee. Love Banshee.
Yeah.
Really good.
What's it on?
It's on Max.
Okay, yeah.
It is 4 seasons. It's based in Pennsylvania, in the Amish country, and it's basically about a ex-convict who assumes the identity of a sheriff.
Oh, yeah. I did see that. I got to watch that. Yeah.
It's good.
There's a lot of good TV and stuff out now, but it makes sense when you say the premieres and things are smaller because
there's so many. And
there's
again,
so many.
But this is a good, I got to say, it's a good thing in the industry for actors because, you have your A-list actors, and there's only few of them as there was 20 years ago.
Well, I always say that now
A-list.
is like, and like that's weird, and you got to see that too. Is like it's going from social media influencers now that are pushing a needle instead of like I feel like my generation was the last generation that got actors with where you had like DiCaprio and Brad Pitt and like Ryan Reynolds is really kind of like the last thing that's holding on to kind of a younger. Like that, and he's not even young. Like I don't know anybody coming up that's like really a rock solid.
Well,
actor
they're
anymore.
not. And the thing is, it's like I was saying, the actors themselves, a lot of these guys who didn't have those jobs now are all working because all these streaming networks need B players for everything. And there's a lot of them. They'll hire one A-lister or even not. A lot, an ensemble cast of a bunch of very good B-list actors can be just as good as a group of A-list actors if you watch them and give them the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and watch some of the old series. Like, if you go back and watch The Wire, like, those were all unknown actors, and they're all huge now.
Yes, that's, Zito. He was in, what was the other one that they did?
Sons of Anarchy?
Oz.
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 Zito's been in a lot of stuff from back in the day.
Yeah.
The guy at work, Greg, was just asking about watching Oz. He's like, you ever watch it?
When I met Zito was at actually Angelina Jolie's first movie, I believe, or second movie or something. It was called Gia.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was in it with her.
It was a sultry film.
And he was actually at the party, and we were at this place, and he was in his total Hell's Angels regalia, and nobody was talking to him, and he was staring someone up. I was like, "Hey, you doing?"
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh," we just chatted along, and that's pretty much how.
It's crazy when you would have stuff like that cross over.
Yeah,
like
it's
him
strange.
and with that stuff. Yeah, I feel like you don't see it. I mean, they don't do stuff like that
Well,
anymore.
like I said, the industry's changed. It's like I said, now it's giving actors a more of a chance to get out to work.
Yeah.
To work. And there's not just have to be a major budget film.
No.
Because these TV shows and a lot of indie films are moving along too now.
Yeah.
A lot of good actors. Listen, some of the greatest actors I've ever seen are probably the most unknown. Willem Dafoe. The guy who played John Wayne Gacy, Brian Dennehy.
Yeah.
These guys are Class A actors.
Yeah.
But they're not in the limelight because there's only few. And also, I think in the industry of press, I mean, who's not press wise, but I mean as far as celebrity. Kardashians.
Yeah. Well, see, I think that changed a lot, and also because of the young kids, and there's so many people plugged into the different Snapchats and all that different stuff. Where now it's like they move the needle more on someone who me and you wouldn't even know, and it's just somebody that is either involved in like, oh, that person's on TikTok and they got 10 billion followers, and it's like, what? And then when you start seeing that, it's kind of and I'm sure it'll come back the other way. I don't know. Do you think?
All right. Well, here I'll tell you this. So our movie
I want
premieres,
actors back. I want celebrities back.
So you should talk to the whole press crew
Yeah.
in New York City and L.A. because basically what's been happening is now on a red carpet, and it's all fun but the world is changing. So at a premiere, we'll photograph 3 or 4 talent from the film, a couple producers, and probably 20 to 40 influencers.
But I started hearing that the actors and the talents don't want the influencers there anymore, and I started hearing that there's that's causing issues. But then it's like those are the people that are bringing, it's like Jake Paul in boxing. He's changing boxing completely, not because he's good or what he's doing. It's because he's bringing a shitload of young kids who don't even fucking know anything about boxing. The one kid at work who's 19 didn't know who Chris Farley was. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I do know.
Like, so these kids don't even know any of this stuff that we're talking about. So these influencers are bringing these people over to movies.
Correct. And that's where it has to change. And that's where, as being myself and being part of Star Picks, we understand that. We have to photograph them. We photograph them. I don't complain. I think it's fine. They have to. This is how their movies are now getting
crazy.
More press, more out there to the younger generation.
Yeah.
It's through them.
Yeah.
And it's not through the New York Post.
No.
Okay.
And like that's
it's
what's
not.
wild. Like when we were talking earlier about how like podcasting and all these things, it's kind of like these loopholes through social media and all these different things where they take the middleman out completely. Like the one girl who was on TikTok, I think it's like Bella Porch, or I don't know how to pronounce it or if I'm saying it wrong. She's an attractive looking girl, and she just went from doing a TikTok to then she blew up and had so many followers. And then they took her and then they did music with her. And you could tell they worked with her. Then now they got her being in a Rihanna video. And I'm like, this is a girl who made literally in like a hotel room, just made a stupid face to a song, and they built, and anything she does, I think she's got the record on YouTube where it's the most amount of hits in the shortest amount of time, where you pull up her stuff and she's not even a musician and she's getting 1 billion hits off of a music that's, like, it's wild that like that's what a celebrity is now. Because I feel like celebrities aren't celebrities anymore. I agree.
And being in the industry, I see that. And that's not that they're not celebrities. It's what is the terminology?
That's true.
What is the definition of celebrity?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, a lot of it's changed.
Yeah. So the definition of the celebrity is no longer a movie star. It
could be
who's
who's on. Right, exactly.
Who's on the device that you're holding?
Correct.
Yeah.
And social media, and that's why the actors. They have to start to. I guess all of us, the photographers, the actors, start accepting more of the influencers and what they do, and especially older people like myself have to start understanding that this is new.
Especially if you want your business to continue to grow.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do want it to grow, but it's also to the point where it's not easy.
Yeah.
And the body, it's definitely a very non-conducing, to the body. You stand all the time.
Yeah.
You're running all the time on the concrete. You're not,
I didn't realize you were still doing like premieres and stuff.
Yeah, I still do premieres. I still do like tomorrow night.
Because you were like, hey, I can't do that. I'm working with HBO. And I was like, oh, like he's still in this shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I am who I am.
Well, I never knew your story, and I just knew you did. We briefly had a conversation at Music Fest. I was drunk.
You're only going to get half the conversation on this.
That's what I said. Because I like when people bring stuff, but I mean, you were like, you were like, there's so many different photos and things.
I mean, there's hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's the things.
Well, what I'll do is let's kind of get
Oh, look. You know him?
Yeah.
Oh, her.
That's wild.
I don't even know. Is that China?
Yeah, wrestler China.
Oh, a couple of them. Oh, that's a great story.
Who's that? I can't
Mariah.
see. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mariah and her, I guess, boyfriend at the time. Oh, that's a good one.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and Instinct. There's Justin behind him. Yeah, that's another thing. I worked with Michael for a piece. Yeah, very interesting.
What's that like?
So a lot of these things, they turn out. How do I say this? A lot of the things I've done are very interesting in ways. Like to get to work with Michael Jackson was one-shot deal.
Yeah, how did you get?
Basically, I don't remember where I came in from. A PR firm said they needed a photographer to do something. I went in. I went to Carnegie Hall. He was there with the rabbi, Shmuley, and they were doing something for his organization. And Michael came. And basically, at that time, we had to do some retouching to some photos in the very beginning of this whole digital age. And I built his nose back. And I had to get an approval from him if it was okay. So I did. I went into this dressing room and I said, Mr. Jackson, and he was nowhere around.
Does that move your meter at all?
No.
Meeting him?
Yes. Yes, it moves my meter to meet everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't show it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you a million stories.
So what did he say
when
you? So you went in and
I went in and it was all mirrors, and he was crouched down behind the couch, when I opened the door this way, and I hear him go, "Hello," and there he was crouched down, and there was Shmuley's kids were there, and they were just bouncing around. He was just playing around, and I had him look, and he goes, "Oh, those are very nice. That's good, thank you." And basically, that was the end of it. That pretty much was the end of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and, that's pretty much what it's about. Like I said, they're just time after time after time. Oh, look. You like them?
Yeah. Did you get to meet them?
I did meet him a few times.
Lars?
Not a big fan.
I was going to ask. What's your, how was he?
Fucking great.
Yeah.
Great. Who is this? Who are they? Do you know who they are?
Yes. That was a very iconic thing that they came out and did.
Killers, is that them? No.
No, that is Son of a Bitch. They had like one hit song. But that whole thing that they did there was like a really big deal. It was like a TRL or MTV Music Awards.
That's what it was.
What the fuck was it?
I don't know who they are.
They had one song. That photo was more popular than I believe the band.
Yeah. Oh, look at these. Gee whiz.
Did you meet both of them?
Yes.
How were they to work with?
So Brittany, first, this is another great story. So she was an ad person for Tommy Hilfiger. He was going to use her as her first, she was going to promote Tommy stuff.
Before she was singing?
No, it was the week her album came out, the first album.
Yeah. Hit me, baby, one more time. I was in high school when that shit dropped.
So I'm in a trailer because Tommy was doing a video. They were doing a video shoot for Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah.
So because we worked for Tommy back then. So Tommy and I became very friendly with Tommy as well. And Tommy had her. And
I keep forgetting that you probably worked with so many other people outside of celebrities, like brands and clothing companies.
Yeah, and the presidents.
Yeah.
On and on. And dignitaries. So so I have pictures of her and Tommy Hilfiger pulling his jeans in the trailer, and have all kinds of fun stuff up for. But this is when I was working for that other person.
Yeah.
Prior to Star Picks, and all of this stuff was on film and negatives and stuff. But ended up becoming very friendly with her manager at the time, and did a lot of work with her at that point. Did stuff with, Aguilera, with all of them. I mean, it was it's every day. I tell you, every day I did something. It's something I could remember. I got, it never ends. I could just pick this stuff up. I don't know, what's this? Britney Spears. Oh, she was at Kids Day. Dave Allocca. What year is this? 1999.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the Britney, TRL, all that stuff. Aguilera.
This? Oh, Alexandra Stevenson. I don't even know who these people are. Hillary Clinton. I mean, on and on.
What do you prefer doing, the celebrity stuff or?
I'll do anything.
Did you?
No.
Okay. What's something that you were photographing, and then it kind of felt conspiracy type style stuff? Is there stuff that you ever photographed and then you couldn't do anything with it because you didn't want anyone to see it?
What do you mean?
Aliens and stuff like that, weird stuff, man. Government secrets.
No, and if I did, I wouldn't say anything anyway. Was
there anything you did that you felt
do.
super sketchy, doing?
Not really.
Yeah.
No, not really, not at all.
Yeah.
I can't. It's a whole nother conversation for another time.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I think there was times.
Who was the best person to work with and who was the worst?
Jeez, the best. There's a lot of really good people.
Like people
out
just
there.
treat you like a normal
There's
person
really
and they're a
good
normal
people.
person.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I can't just limit it to one person who's an asshole too.
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, where's my Courtney love shot? She did some funny crap to me. I wasn't really. Oh look, here's a good one.
Who's that?
You don't know Blue Eyes,
No, I can't see that far from here.
Frank?
It's Frank Sinatra?
Yeah,
Did you meet him?
briefly.
Yeah.
I met him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I met him, but briefly. But it's more than a lot
Yeah,
of
now
other
I
people
can see it looks like him.
It
Yeah.
was his 80th birthday. That was it.
That's cool. That's
I've
cool
got-
just to be at stuff like
See,
that.
okay. So, perfect example.
Like what you said, like someone being at Sinatra's 80th. Like they would take that one moment. Like this is just a Wednesday for
Right,
you.
that's a Wednesday. It was. This is a Sunday. I
Yeah.
was doing a job for DreamWorks
Yeah.
at Giant Stadium, shooting Shrek.
Yeah.
Why I haven't, I don't know. Great story of Mariah.
I like the Mariah stuff. You probably got some batshit crazy stories with her. China again.
China again. Yeah, it just never ends. I don't know who these girls are. They probably
You get
don't
into a
like-
lot of the wrestling stuff, or yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So is wrestling? It's so crazy because it's like as soon as you get into one genre and you're like, oh wow, he probably met all those people. Then the more you keep thinking, it's like, no, you did football, basketball, baseball.
I've done it all.
Yeah.
Okay, I got pictures. I worked I worked for WWE for a little bit for a couple jobs. For
Yeah.
them.
So they
I
hired
worked
you through.
through a PR agency to
Yeah.
get some press out. I have a good friend, George Napolitano, one of the greatest wrestling photographers ever, from the 70s, 80s, 90s. The WWF loves him.
Yeah.
He would get us. I would go. My daughter was big into it. I shot all the wrestlers.
Yeah.
I shot Stone Cold. I shot Hulk Hogan. I've shot all of them.
I feel like
because
you
I
hit the
pick
best
my-
era
because
to
I
do
pick,
be a
I
photographer.
pick my events. You asked
Yeah.
me what I do before. I pick what I want to shoot.
Yeah.
Some people want to shoot Beyonce. I want to go shoot, Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's just something.
So and then like with the Siegfried and Roy stuff, like, so you weren't just based in New York all the time. You were going out to Vegas and
They
all
were in
over?
New York. I would go everywhere. Back then,
Yeah.
before digital, we'd fly to L.A., fly
Yeah.
all over the place. I've been lots of places.
Yeah.
I mean,
Where was the Johnny Depp photo that you showed me? My mother's
Little
obsessed
Italy.
with Johnny Depp.
Little Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Little Italy. That was there. I mean, it's just weird stuff. I mean, it's just all memories. It's big memories. Oh. It's interesting. Oh. This is on a carpet. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's great. Like, and then that too, when you're at parties and you get
That's
all
a
three of
party.
those people together.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Ah, here's another good one. Now this picture, oh wait, I'll show you this instead.
Now, who's that?
That's Jimmy Page.
And is that you with him?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Yeah, De Niro again.
And Roberto Duran.
Yeah.
That was taken by Harvey Keitel. He took that photo.
Yeah, you,
Cast of Mary Tyler Moore. It never ends. Like I said, it never ends.
did you do stuff or brush into, I'm sure you did, but with Tarantino's movies?
Did the premiere of Pulp Fiction. I remember doing the premiere of Pulp Fiction.
Fuck, dude.
I did the premiere of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. What was that like? Because that was such a huge goddamn movie.
It was opening night of the New York Film Festival, whatever year that came out, 93, 94, whatever
Yeah.
that is. I think 93.
And then who was in that? Travolta?
It was Travolta,
So many
Uma
people,
Thurman, Bing Rames, Bruce Willis.
What'd you think of Bruce Willis? A lot of people.
I worked. Okay, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So when I got hired back in '93 by this other guy,
Yeah.
his accounts also included Planet Hollywood, the Fashion Cafe, and the Harley Davidson Cafe. So we would go to all the openings across the world with Planet Hollywood, with Stallone, with Bruce Willis, with fucking Schwarzenegger, with whomever was in the area that night. They'd have all these parties, night after night after fucking night after night. My daughter, my daughter who's now 38, when she was like, I think like 10 or 7 maybe 8, we took her to Planet Hollywood. Whoopi Goldberg sang her happy birthday.
What the fuck?
I got pictures of my other daughter with John Cena here somewhere. And there. I mean, it's never ending. It's all it's been.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
Yeah.
So
that Pulp Fiction thing, that I mean, but I mean, not even that. I mean, because everywhere you turn to ask who you're talking to.
It was at the party was, I believe, a Tavern on the Green. I mean, you're talking 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it was, and I was there. It was at Lincoln Center because they always have the New York Film Festival. And again, everything has changed a lot. The industry I see, we used to do something called the Chaplin Awards, and I've got pictures with being in a room with like Clint Eastwood and De Niro and Pacino all at one time.
Yeah.
And, Paul Newman and Bowie. Pesci and me, he yelled at me last time I saw him.
What did he yell at you for?
Because I was photographing The Irishman.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you touched that because of De Niro.
Yeah, I did some stuff with them, and I was back in the green room, and I had taken a picture because he was talking to Al, and the flash bothered him. I guess he said, "Listen, I've had enough with that shit." And he was really serious about it.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry. And he did come over afterwards and apologize.
Yeah, how do you I mean...
I just walked away.
Yeah.
I said, sure.
I mean, you pretty much have to handle it like that. Otherwise, you're getting in a confrontation.
I don't... It wasn't worth it. It was. I knew he had had enough. He doesn't come out that often to do this shit. He doesn't have to.
Yeah.
He's Joe Pesci. He's a fucking great legend. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have to. A lot of the older guys, I give them credit for even still doing it.
Yeah, they don't have to do any of that shit.
No, they don't. So.
And after years of putting up with it or whatnot, or just,
Well, I think he's also private. I think he's another private guy. I mean, he doesn't live too far. It's not like, he's in Jersey.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to come out very often. And I guess he had enough with the whole press. It was a big deal because he hadn't come out in 20 years.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. It was such, well, I mean, everybody, because I mean, that was still like, that was a time when everybody in that movie, I think, was never all did a movie together, right?
Well, they all didn't, and it was directed by Scorsese.
Yeah.
And it had Pesci and Al and Bob. And who else was in that movie?
Action Bronson, only because I know.
Huh?
Action Bronson, but
Action Bronson. I know Sebastian's in it.
Yeah.
Sebastian Maniscalco's in it.
Yeah. It was the big three were
Keitel.
Yeah. They brought in anyone who's pretty much been in
Goodfellas Casino, the whole deal.
I love Harvey Keitel. Michael Madison, have you done stuff with him?
Not only when he does a premiere, but years ago. He doesn't come out very often.
Yeah.
Harvey is
What's because
he's the oldest out of all.
I knew him from Reservoir Dogs, obviously, and I watched that in high school, and then that was like, you just, I mean, it was a different time. You couldn't just Google Harvey Keitel, but you would go to Blockbuster, then another Harvey Keitel movie, and usually it was kind of
Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah, all the different stuff. Charles Bronson, you ever do anything with?
I have photos of Charles. I think I photographed him once or twice.
I
photographed Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah.
I photographed Jackie Gleason. I photographed numerous people. Not like back then. It was, like I said, this is going back into the 80s where I didn't have any clout. I was building myself, as you say, at that point. Building up to where, I am now. I'm just trying to get by, do my thing, have a lot of stories.
Where do you guys want to go with everything now? I mean, I know there's we were talking about the actor strike and all that, and it kind of seems writer strike.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like a lot of this is kind of, I don't know, it kind of swings a lot, which is probably also what you like about it, is it just goes in different directions. But where do you guys want to go with everything? Even though, I mean, it's not even where do you want to go with it? Because I feel like you're at the top with it, where anyone's major is calling you. So to keep doing it, how do you guys want to continue doing it?
I mean, I listen, I'm not up for retirement yet. Unfortunately, I have about 6 years to go. And I enjoy what I do. I just do it less.
Yeah.
I mean, if the money was out there in the resale, I'd be out there every day like I used to be.
Yeah.
Because I like what I do. It's a great gig. It's brought me a lot of things, and it's, it definitely very cultured me in many different ways. I mean, one morning, I'll tell you, I was shooting Spielberg and President Clinton at the White House on a morning.
Yeah.
And that evening, I was back in New York shooting the Ramones' final concert ever together at CBGB's.
That's so cool. What a fucking crazy. What did you do for lunch?
Flew.
Yeah.
I was flying back to New York.
Do you get to eat a lot of good food and experience a lot of good
Yes,
drinks and shit like that because you're at all these parties?
Yeah, well, basically, drinks are free.
Yeah.
So that was the reason I don't drink now, because it was, everything in abundance.
Yep.
I would work for Atlantis for a long time. And I had a very good connection at Atlantis, the island, the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And we go there whenever I wanted, free on the house.
Yeah.
Fly down, have a limo waiting for me.
What a fucking crazy life, man.
Go down there, shoot Michael Jordan's opening of his golf clubs or some shit.
Yeah.
Do this or that. That was years. That was another thing, the opening of that place. That's a whole nother.
So you get hired for press on that kind of stuff. Because, that's what's interesting about it. And I didn't know. I just knew, the little interaction we had, and you had told me about De Niro. But, I didn't know, you literally have touched everything. You've literally have touched, And then, you don't realize that, when you're getting hired for that, the pictures you see in magazines and shit is somebody was hired to take those photos.
Well, sometimes they were hired, sometimes they're just making the resale.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, I'm a professional photographer for 40 years. I can shoot sports to an extent. I'm not saying I'm no Charles Wetzelberg. I'm no Anthony Causey. War photographers, Shannon Stapleton. These are guys you don't even think about. When you see pictures in out there, nobody understands that. Look at this. My friend shot this. Okay? Now, that's his job.
Yeah.
His job's different than my job. I'm the top of what I do. He's one of the top journalistic shooters, Shannon.
Did you ever get into, that's kind of what I meant earlier, but, have you ever gotten into situations that were fucked up like that, or you just stayed away from it because you didn't have to?
No, the only time I really went into something that I wanted to do was the World Trade. And honestly, if I had the access or if I was there before they closed shit up, I would have been on the island going in there too, because that's just my mentality and my what I do. We're press guys. And bottom line is this, celebrity and all that shit's all great and good, but we're doing a job. We're doing it for press. We're doing it for purposes. Now it's sort of changed because the streamers don't really care about the press. They want it for the bloggers. They want it for social media. They want it for their own usage to have.
It's weird watching that kind of swallow it. Everything, not just what you're doing.
Music,
everything's changed. I mean, we talked earlier about, how podcasting and just, because it's I pay attention to podcasting. I've been doing podcasting, like I said, 7-8 years ago when I used to, guests would say, "What are you doing?" And I would say, "Oh, it's like a radio show." And I don't got to do that anymore.
No, because we know.
Yeah. So and then, for me to see and be a part of something so early on, regardless of how successful or unsuccessful I am, I'm a part of something that I see has been slowly changing everything. I mean, when I wanted to do this when I was younger, it was a friend of mine. We would listen to Opie and Anthony, and
I love them.
Yeah. So that's how a lot of this started. Is we would always kind of joke around like they would, and I'd be like, man, I think we would be good at doing our own show, but how are you going to do that? All right, well, now you got to do college radio. You got to get on that. You got to have permission for somebody to use their studio. And then when, and Anthony Cumia was one of the front runners of somebody who built a studio in their basement. And then the early Joe Rogan was started because he saw when Anthony got fired, he just started doing his own show out of his basement. And then that's kind of when you started bringing in-house production, you're watching a lot of people cut everybody out and make their own money and do their own thing independently, and
and don't
it's
have anybody
wild.
To answer to.
Yeah, you don't have anybody to answer to.
to.
And I've been watching a lot of Bert Kreischer interviews because he's massive right now, and all the stuff that he's doing, and he was on the Travel Channel, and when he was let go from the Travel Channel, and then now he is selling out stadiums and is one of the world's largest comedians. It's insane to look that somebody even let that talent go, or was he being held back by the people who were telling him, don't do this, don't do that. And when I listen to all these guys who are like massive stars and they're independent and they're making their own money, and to hear that they keep saying, don't get involved with people because they're going to tell you not to be original, it's a very weird time. And then to hear these stories from you, and to hear how it's changing and everything's kind of like you're just kind of going with the flow and like this world that isn't even existing anymore. And it's very weird to be a part of it right now, to see the kids coming up, but also to be a part of the kind of wave that's moving everything forward, because I don't know where everything's going to be in 20 years.
I have no idea either, because you know where it's gone from. When I'm the last. I was told this by a young cop a few months ago. He said, you're one of the last of the free generations, and I didn't know what that meant. And I explained it. He said, you're the part of the people who had no computers, you had no phones, that phone there. Yeah. I mean, that's a thing of the past.
What's crazy, because sometimes when I got 15 minutes in the morning, I'll just sit here and I'll scroll through Instagram Reels, and it reminds me of a time when I would get home from school and I would sit in a chair and I would just be going through the channels, and most of it was like, because you figure everything you're watching is a minute and a half. So essentially everything you're watching on here is what were commercials for us. So like I'm flipping through this and I'm like, oh shit, this is TV. It's just the generation coming up doesn't know what TV is, but streaming has now turned into television, and then it is so short. It's almost like what I used to watch in old sci-fi movies where they would show what the future would be, and it would be like, like Neo Japan and whatnot. And it was always like TV and like these weird things, and then now you're on your phone watching the most ridiculous shit that we all send to each other, and it's so crazy. And then it's like, all right, well, here's 30 seconds, and I go to the next one, it's another 30 seconds, and then sometimes I'll pull myself out of it and be like, what the fuck is this? Because it's the same as going through the channels. Another commercial. Oh, here's MTV, I'll leave music on. Commercial, yeah. And then now what's wild is like streaming was a place to get away from commercials, and now there's more commercials on YouTube if you don't pay for it than what is on actual television. Correct. So now it's like it's actually becoming worse because you're getting more of it because they're shorter, and like it's just weird. It's weird getting old and watching. I had a younger kid on, and I was talking to him about VHS tapes, and he was looking at me like I was crazy, and I was like, fuck, I'm old. I'm like, this kid
15 years younger than me.
I'm like, this kid doesn't even know what a fucking VHS tape is. Or the kid at work who didn't know who Chris Farley was, and I was like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, they're young. Yeah. I have one.
But I
have two.
But I feel like
21 and 25.
I feel like if you take what you're doing now, and if you gave somebody that job, they won't ever experience what you got to. Like that's why, like when you were telling the stories where you hit like, you're doing Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, that was such a crazy point of music. But then you got to do before that where you were doing Henry Rollins and you were doing, all that stuff. And then to start with Carlos Santana and then go into like, I feel like you've literally got to touch the coolest shit. And I don't think there'll be anything better than what you got to experience, because I don't think it's ever going to be like what you said, free.
It's not good, and not even free. Yeah, it's more about. I don't think the
I don't think the Beastie Boys are wherever. Like I don't feel like there'll ever be another Beastie Boys, or there'll be music that comes out like that for other generations at all. I don't think there'll be anyone who comes close to that.
Well, this is where you got to consider, are the Beatles the four Mozarts of our time period?
Well, I guess now I see where that argument comes from, because it still stays.
They're 50 years old. They're 60 almost, these music the Beatles made.
Yeah.
And their music is still here. I could guarantee there's a song that my son likes or my daughter likes at 21 and your mother or my mother likes at 83. From a Beatles song.
There was a young kid at work again today, because the college kids are back in. That's the only reason I have these references, because they're 19. So it was one of Luca's friends. And they have on like a station that's got to be out. You can't have what you want on because there's people eating and you just have that mood music.
Yeah.
So the one kid, I said something about the song, and he goes, I don't really listen to stuff like this. He goes, I get into like the 60s and the 70s. He's like, where good music came from. And I'm like, oh, that's so crazy. And then I was like, Why wouldn't these kids be going back? Because anything that's present,
it's all regurgitated.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I see now. This is something again with the business and the industry that a lot of this, the music's not there's not a lot of good music out there. Okay, there is some really good people. There's Catfish. There's Kingfish rather. There's Christoph Kingfish. I don't even know he's guitarist. Wailing ass guitarist. I'm one of the best blues guitarists I've ever seen. There's a ton of people. Marcus King. On and on and on. Nice. But even in the movies, it's all changing so that I lost my whole train of fucking thought.
We're talking about music and kind of like what's actually good music now.
Oh, well, it's good music, good movies. Again, how are you going to when they start recreating TV shows?
That's all they're doing now is remakes.
And the funny thing is, goes back to another podcast movie. I don't know if you saw the Jonah Hill movie with Eddie Murphy, the new one.
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either, but I'm going to a point that I didn't think it was overly that good. Jonah Hill's okay. But he also, just, I don't know if you know, he doesn't have to do press for his movies. Because he has some disorder.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do press. So, because he doesn't like to.
I was like the kid with the speech impediment that didn't have to read in our class.
He gets over on it.
Yeah.
But no, the thing was on the movie, he does a podcast.
Yeah.
And he's got this African American girl, and she says, why do I want to see a 1980s version of the Wonder Years in black people?
Yeah.
It's like, what does that, she's right. It's like, why are you regurgitating? Because there's nothing new.
There's nothing. I feel like when they started doing the remakes, it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like movies lost itself.
Too.
It's just all. It's like when the Marvel stuff took over, it was cool, but then it's like,
come on. How many?
Man. Yeah, right, everybody talks shit on the Fast and Furious going on for forever, but it's like, dude, how many different Marvel?
Every day.
And then they're doing Ant-Man. I'm just like, get out of here, man.
And the Asian guy that they just had, I don't know him. It was like in October, that Marvel came out.
I don't remember.
I
stopped. I can't follow it. It's too much to keep up with. I don't have the time.
You want to talk about full circle? Then I would also go, listen, all I did was have fun. I had fun. I would go to comic conventions.
Comic-Cons.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I would photograph all the people doing autographs.
Yeah.
I would get real wild people there. Like Adam's Family girl. The real one. Her. All kinds of fucking Batman.
Yeah.
I would do all Comic-Cons, wrestling shows. We do it all.
Those actors still go out there, man. They're making a lot of money. We just went to the Jersey one, the horror one.
What, Chiller?
Yeah.
I used to do Chiller every year. All the time.
But what's-his-face was there from Terminator 2.
Butch Patrick?
No, the kid.
Eddie Redmayne?
Yeah, Eddie Furlong.
Eddie Furlong.
Yeah, now, regardless of whatever fucked up shit he's gotten himself into or out of or whatever.
Not my issue.
No. But that dude is probably making in that weekend easily over $100,000.
I would believe it.
100, and then I'm like, man, what's the first time I've ever brushed to probably your every day is I sold T-shirts at a Walker Stalker. So it was in Jersey again. It was when The Walking Dead was huge. Oh. And what's his face with the crossbow? Every woman wanted to bang him. Norman Reedus comes. He now has to go to a signing. They took over a whole area, which was like half the size of an airport, for his line. And it was just women, and they were waiting there. And the only reason they were there was to get that signature and that picture with him. And you could tell he was walking across, and he looked over at me.
A cigarette.
Walked over at me, and he said, "What's up?" And he nodded.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Is that fucking Norman Reedus?"
Yeah.
And then he kept going, and then you heard the noise, and then it was people chasing after him. And I was like, holy fucking shit, I've never seen that in real life. And then he goes over around the curtain, and I look over, and then it's just, you hear the noise, and it's all these fucking people. And I'm like, what? How much money is that dude bringing in on those things? Then I started realizing why all those people go to those. But the Chiller one, that hotel's a total shithole. But there were some cool people there.
Dude,
it was Richard Dreyfuss. Who's the dude that Sal got a picture with? Chaz
military.
He was there. He was wearing a suit and everything. So there were some cool people there. There were some legit people there. And then there were some people that you felt sorry for because no one was fucking taking pictures with them. But those places are wild. What, Presley was there? What's her face?
Lee Majors, actually. He snubbed. No, it was Peter Fonda. Me and my friend, we used to go every Friday night. They would start because Saturdays and Sundays was too crazy.
Yeah.
So we'd always go to the chiller.
Yeah, we had to get there early.
Friday.
I went with somebody who had a plan.
Yeah, we had. So we had
Yeah, we were drinking beers. It was fun.
We would go in through, and it would get packed, but we would shoot them as they were setting up. And Peter Fonda wouldn't look at us. It's like, come on, he was signing the helmet.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Peter. And he's like, hey, you didn't pay. Like, we're press. He goes, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, fuck you then. But anyway, we took his picture anyway.
Furlong was cool. My buddy got him to sign a canister that he had, like a Terminator thing. He's a big movie guy. And he got him to sign, like, fuck you or something. And he laughed a little bit about signing it. The handler's there, obviously, telling you how much, all right, you want that, it's an extra 20. And then what's funny is all of that stuff that you have to pay is out of annoyance from people saying, can you write this movie line? And then them being like, it's now $20 if you want a movie line. But then he signed it. And my buddy had no problems paying for it. He knew
how much was it?
I think he paid, it was probably $100 even for the photo. He signed that, and it was a movie quote. And then he came back, and he was like, can you take a picture of this? It was what I posted on my Instagram. And he's like, will you give me the finger? And he said something, and then Furlong was like, that's what she said, made a joke. They both laughed, and then he took a picture. But it's like it was cool that he was just did all that. But then it's also wild to think, because then I was like, well, what else was he in? And it was American History X. And then I was just like, oh, this isn't just the kid from Terminator 2.
No,
like,
he's been in
he was in a lot of fucking shit.
Well, that's not a bad price, because my daughter just went down to get the Undertaker, and he's $200 at a graph.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do a lot of autograph collecting.
Oh, that's cool.
I will. My daughter sort of took it over.
Yeah.
Because I've got my pieces, but I've got some. There's some.
That's cool though that you can do that with your daughter and like use your kind of
wrestling.
Yeah.
She's and she's also been out there doing some of this work with me.
That's fun.
So it's a plus. I mean, they grew up in it.
Yeah.
They grew up with this. I mean, it wasn't there was one time I think I had to do a shoot. I remember it was Dakota Fanning. And she was going to be backstage at Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So she was seeing the show. She was a little kid then. And so they said, okay, if they wanted me to shoot it, they just said, they'll, give me free tickets to see the show. So I took my family.
Yeah.
So on a Friday night, she went, and then her and my son were playing around, running after each other. And they were like 8.
That's like, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Anyway, what's our timing?
We're good, dude. We went over an hour.
I figured that.
No, I'm gonna close out. I want to thank you for coming on. I'm gonna definitely bring you back on because the last like half hour of how we did this, we could do this anytime, especially in the new studio. It'll be dope. We can lounge a little bit more. I do want to get you out of here. You lived a fucking incredible life. I'm so glad now that from meeting you and running, seeing you at Giacomo's, but now like I understand what you do, and I don't feel like we would have ever had time with how we run into each other to learn how you did this. And I think it's awesome, man. I think you lived an incredible life. I think if you put this in any other time frame than you did it, you would not have had the fun and the extraordinary people that you got to meet. Do you want to plug anything with your business or anything like that before we leave?
No, I'm good.
All right, cool.
I'm good. I just want to say thanks, and maybe I'll come back, and I appreciate it, and thanks everybody for watching, and God bless.
Hell yeah, man. Your first-time listener, first-time watcher, it is neveragainstudio.com. That is where the podcast is for the video and the audio. You can get through my apparel by clicking on the Instagram link, and that'll bring you to drop shipping, Dynamite Screen Printing. Kyle, he sponsors the show. If you need anything for him, check it out. And what did you do? Find more stuff? Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, and Mick.
That's crazy, dude. Eric Clapton. Dude. Thank you so much, man. Dude, you've met so many fucking people.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.